Good morning, and welcome to another episode of the Here and Now videocast. On this very special episode, I have a good friend and fellow coach with whom I started my coaching journey with just over 3 years ago now. She's a really lovely lady. I look up to her so much, and I'm sure she's going to give us some lovely insights. Nima, this is Nima Ne, and
Hi.
I'd like to hand over to you for a small introduction, if you don't mind.
Hi, thank you so much, Lindsay, for having me. It's just so wonderful to come here on your show. Just to start off a little bit about me, I'm a coach, and like you said, that's how we met. And I specialize in post-traumatic growth coaching.
Great.
So I started my journey because I'm so passionate about post-traumatic growth. I've had a background of honestly multiple traumas. So as a child, also losing my dad to suicide.
I'm so
And
sorry.
thank you. Over the years, I have battled trauma. So I've, like most people, hid with, shoved it under the carpet and said, this doesn't exist in my life. And so after a point, I just felt like I need to go and see somebody, get some help, because I don't think this is okay. So a few years ago, I went and I saw a therapist and did some wonderful work. And I came out the other side. When I came out the other side, I was doing incredible things.
Mm-hmm.
I was overweight before, and I started running. I did 40 half marathons, and I started seeing growth that I never thought could, happen for somebody like me. So having been through so much trauma and, bunch of things, having to parent myself, do all these things that we don't do it. Normally you don't hear this in society. And so when I did that, and then I came into the coaching program and all of these things, I just felt like, wow, this is the space that I want to be. If I can change my life and I can grow dramatically after trauma, I can help others do it too. So that's kind of where I am. I'm also kind of learning. So I love the science behind the post-trauma. And so I'm here working, coaching, I think living my purpose.
That's so beautiful.
That's about me, yeah.
So beautiful. And you just struck so many questions. I'm trying to keep my coaching cap off. But are you okay if I ask you to share some of the moments that shaped you to come and live your purpose? They might be deep and painful, and if you don't want to, just leave them out. But if you're able to share to help others connect, it's up to you.
Yeah, I think the moments that shaped my life, Lindsay, were, I think, mental health and illness. So my parents were both not well. So my dad had depression. But where I came from, I grew up in India. We never spoke about things like this.
Yeah.
So physical health was important. So if you had a heart condition, you go get help for it. But when you had depression, nobody really spoke about it. So it was like, oh, it's a mood or whatever. You didn't really talk about it. And what I realize now is that there was help for all of those things. And mental health and the stigma associated with mental health was so strong that nobody ever took any action. So I think that plays a big part in purpose of what I'm here to do. And my dad, unfortunately, committed suicide because of his depression. I was really quite young, so I didn't understand a lot of that. And obviously losing a parent that way is a really, really hard thing to go through. And so I had my own journeys with, trying to deal with that and so on. And at some point, I don't know how, I was brave to go and get that help. And I think having gotten that help, having, just recognizing that if dad had gotten, or anybody with mental illness, and goes and gets the help they want, they can live an amazing life. And I think that's where I'm here, because I wouldn't be alone if I say that I'm the only person in the world who experiences trauma. Trauma is subjective. So what is traumatic for me needn't be traumatic for somebody else. So for somebody else, a job loss or something that they love can totally devastate them. But that's not the end of life, right? That's, you can move forward from there. And if they feel depression or they feel, that they have anxiety, today you can get help for that. And I think a lot of my purpose and my meaning is really connected to breaking the stigma on mental illness and working towards a good mental health, mental wellness situation. So yeah, that is how I feel connected to my purpose.
That was so brave and vulnerable of you, Nima. Thank you so much. There's lots of stuff coming up. Well, what's your vision with your purpose now that you've discovered your purpose? Do you have a vision that you keep with you?
A vision really is, honestly, just to change the space of mental health. That is my vision. I'm one person here. Raising awareness is a big thing for me, because there are so many people struggling in silence. And I notice that especially now as we face the coronavirus pandemic, right? Through my own coaching and talking to other people, you realize that people are keeping things within themselves. So there's anxiety, there's, PTSD, there's so much going on. They're keeping it. And I think there is enough help out there, but there is a stigma, something holding them back. Many people have said, I don't want to be a coward. I can handle it. But it's not about that. So I think the point here is to say that my vision is to make the change, to say we can talk about it. It's okay to normalize it.
Yeah.
And when you say vision, it's like, I'm looking at it like, what, few years down the line, you can see me grinning. Yes. I love it. I love it. I just love it. It's like, I want to make this world a place where it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to say that I need help. It's okay to just come and be who you are. So I think that vision, and that will come only when people talk. So my job as a coach is to help people find their best selves through that process and post-trauma.
You say that, and I know you a little bit, because like I said to you earlier, I've always looked up to you. But I feel from your energy from 3 years ago when our journey started, I feel that you bring that not just by being a coach. I think just by being you and living your purpose, I believe that is already creating that vision that you're hoping for. The coach is giving you the power. It's like your cape, but I feel that with this love and energy and this drive and purpose you have, I can't help but believe that and feel it, that it's happening anyway.
I agree with you. Like, we were talking just before we started, and I was telling you I was afraid to do this. Remember, I was saying that I was afraid to come here, to go out in the world and proclaim my purpose. I'm here as a post-traumatic growth coach. I can take you through this. I was afraid, and I was hiding behind all this. And then to a point when I realized that if I'm authentic, and if I truly believe this is what I'm here to do and change the space of mental health, then yeah, you're right. Then the coach thing is just a tool. Everything else just flows. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And not that I'm here to give you advice, because this is about you, but I think the coach thing, we don't even need it anymore. You're powerful, and this is from my vision of you before this. We're deep diving in our friendship right now.
Oh, but good. Yeah.
I think it's. I feel like you being you is powerful enough. And now and again, you need the cape in your sessions, and that's great. But I think I'm asking you to own your purpose, if I can even do that.
Oh yeah,
No?
I thank you. Yeah, I want to own my purpose. Because you're right. It's not just when I go into coach mode that I'm slipping into, oh, yes, here goes, I'm coming into my, uh, it's a way of life. It's a
It's a
way of life.
being. You're
It's a being.
being that, right?
Yeah, it's the being, it's the way of life. It's with, whether it's with my family,
Mhm.
whether it's with my friends, whether it's amazing conversations I can have with my coach friends or others or my professors. Yeah, it is the kind of the being. Like in when we were going to the coaching thing, they said, "What makes you feel alive?" Right?
Mhm.
You wake up in the morning and you want to go for it.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is spot on for me.
And you don't, and you're not that. You're not being that only when you have the coaching cape on, right?
No, no, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
No, no, it's my
It's you.
being.
I feel
Yeah,
that that's who you are. You know.
yeah,
Um,
definitely.
this isn't a coaching session, by the way. This is just awareness.
I will take it, Lindsay. I will
If
take
you,
any coaching. Lay it on.
it's only because of how I feel about you and how I've always seen you. I'm thinking, well, she's that even without the cape, you know. Like Nima doesn't need a
Okay,
cape to be
Lindsay, I am
superwoman.
ending my coaching career right here, right
No, I just feel you're more powerful. You're powerful regardless of whether you're in a
now. Thank
session
you.
or without, not in a session. And like you acknowledging it, so there is something there, right?
Absolutely.
You would feel if there's dissonance, So
Oh, totally. I don't think I can come and put on this when I'm just doing a 60-minute session.
no,
You're right. You're
no, no.
absolutely right. It is what I do. It's my way of being. I am so passionate about mental health,
Mhm,
about changing the landscape of mental health and well-being, because I think it's top priority now.
mhm, mhm.
Not just because of COVID. I just think
No.
because it's so prevalent in our day-to-day lives, whether it's with our partners, whether it's with ourselves, with our children. It's such a prevalent thing. So yeah, it's a way of being for all of us, really.
Yeah. So thank you for being receptive to my whatever that was, my
Oh
view
no,
of you.
you're like, no, no, no. That is, I
I'm
take
sorry.
it.
I lead from the heart and it came
I
out. I
know.
couldn't control
Oh
it. I'm
God,
sorry.
and I love you for that. So
I
thank you
was
so
trying,
much.
but I
Thank
couldn't.
you so
Sorry.
much. Thank
Okay.
you.
Um, Nima, what would be your superpower?
Oh God, what would be my superpower? Um, Authenticity. I lived a large part of my life just being, like, I think people pleasing, kind of being, doing things for somebody else.
Mhm,
That's literally how I was conditioned. I grew up in a society where we had to please everybody else except ourselves. And that got conditioned and conditioned and conditioned. And it took me a while to recognize that the only way that I can be happy and be myself and this whole way of being is if I can just be truly, truly, truly authentic, honest and authentic. This is who I am, and that's it. And I think that's the cape or the superpower that. And when I find myself being authentic and do, then I'm in flow.
mhm, mhm, mhm.
I'm in flow. There is no dissonance. I'm just being who I am. And then there are moments when you slip back into, something new comes up and you just slip back into the pattern of,
Yeah.
is that okay? And then I find myself struggling with that. And I
Yes.
need to take a minute to say, no, this is not working, because that conditioning is there and you have to interrupt it
Mhm,
and
mhm.
say, no, I want to be authentic. This is what I think. So my superpower, and I've learned that especially since our coaching journey began, that I'm best when I'm authentic.
And for anybody that would want to connect with authenticity or a superpower, where does that moment come when you start realizing the resistance versus going into flow? Because I know it's a transition, but if anybody wants to say, well, I want to live my purpose, but how? When do they let go of the resistance and actually accept? Is my question clear?
It's clear. I agree with you. I know it's not easy to transition. Like you said, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I found my purpose, but then there's so many other things here. Then how do uh, I think when it starts bothering you, when the dissonance
Yes.
is much more than the resonance.
Okay.
I think it comes to a point when you can't really look yourself in the mirror and
Yeah.
say that that's me. I think that that has to come, is what I believe, that it comes to you if you allow it and you keep pushing something down. It's going to keep manifesting in so many ways.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, don't you think? Like you
Yes,
hide
yes,
something,
yes.
this is not me, this is not me, but then you'll find that manifesting in so many other parts and dimensions, and you're still like, no, 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 that's not me. It's still going to come up. So I think that's the point when you have to say, okay, should I
Uh,
that that thing, and then say, okay, let me see what happens if I go into that. It's so brave for people, I think, who are taking that journey, because it's not easy, no?
it's not easy. No, not at all.
Because you're so used to being that conditioned, that
Yes.
patterned
It's from
self,
childhood. Yeah, yeah.
and then you're like disrupting it.
And
And
there's a fear in that. Was there a fear for you at some point
all the
to
time,
disrupt that childhood programming? You know, like you said, it's years, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, 60
yeah, yeah,
years for some, you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
Did you feel some fear in letting go of the old self and trying to accept what you wanna, who you felt you were?
More than fear, I think it was clunky, right?
Okay,
Because
okay.
I think the fear was there initially, but then it also got to a point where I felt it was so unhealthy, behaving the way, I'm this, but I'm behaving in another way.
Mm-hmm.
It got to a point where you're like, oh God, I can't do this anymore. And then the transition I felt was super clunky, because you're like trying to be your authentic self,
Yes,
yet
yes,
there is all this, patterning and conditioning and
yes.
all these things going on. I think the only way through it is to actually go through it, however clunky it is,
Yeah.
and then come out the other side and be comfortable with whatever comes through that.
And Nima, on that, the journey through the tunnel is hard because it gets dark and it's unpaved, right? What was your support mechanism, right? I imagine family, because I know you're very close to your family. Did you have, you said you had some therapy or what would you say helped you get through that unpaved part of your life where Clunky was disrupting you?
Running,
Great. Okay.
running,
Okay.
running. So I picked up running, definitely. So my therapists, both of them were amazing. So no doubt about it, very professional. They were able to kind of help me through all the anxiety and the trauma that I was dealing with, no doubt about it. Simultaneously, I felt like I needed something for myself, a
Mm-hmm.
release,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of trauma is stored in the body.
Absolutely.
And I was carrying a lot of that, whether, it was there for me. And I think I needed a release, kind of sweat it out or whatever.
Yes, yes.
I think the biggest thing that helped me through that dark path into transition was running,
Okay.
getting
Okay.
out there, lacing up, slowly building my strength. And and it was funny, when I was doing distances, so I couldn't even do a 5K. So I was doing a 1K, and,
Wow.
and then I came to 5, I came to a 10, and I was running half marathons. Just seeing myself do that had a massive impact on my, and I said, on my change. And I said, if I'm brave enough to do this, I'm brave enough to do that. So running really helps me, uh, to be honest, more than family or friends, or
Wow.
because it also felt like a personal journey. Of course, my family knew what I was going through and supportive in their own ways, but running was that one thing that took me through this
Okay.
tunnel.
Okay. And so you advised anybody trying to get through the tunnel of change would be find an outlet? Is that how I could bottom line that?
Um,
What's your advice on that from your experience?
find one thing that you can hold on to and that gives you power.
Okay.
It could be a family member,
Mm-hmm.
It could be a friend. It could be painting. It could be art. It could be, going to the gym. Find one thing that allows you to be kind to yourself
Yes.
and one thing that you can celebrate. Because when you go through this, there are not too many celebrations because you're going through a tough time.
Mm-hmm.
Find one thing or one person who you can celebrate this journey with.
Okay. Thank you. That was great. And so with all this insight and growth, what would you say to your younger self 20 years ago?
Oh my God, to my younger
That
self, I would love to tell her to not disqualify the positives,
okay.
even during trauma, going through a lot. I still had many positive moments in my life, personal achievements and wonderful things. But I didn't take a moment really to be grateful for that, nor did I acknowledge it.
Mm-hmm.
I think I had this whole negativity bias. Oh, this will go
Okay.
wrong, then it'll go wrong, that kind of spiraling. I would tell my younger self, don't disqualify positives. And that's something I think I'm slowly even doing today
Mm-hmm.
through gratitude practice and so on. That
Mm-hmm.
even in the midst of a pandemic and even when things are going crazy, there are still moments every day for us to savor. Just sitting here today, on a Thursday morning, I'm savoring having this
Me
conversation
too.
with you. And yeah, just that don't disqualify the positive things in your life. That's what I would tell her. And if I knew that then, I think I could have appreciated life a little bit more, and that would still give a balance. So it's not always heartache and trauma. There are
Yes, yes, yes.
wonderful, beautiful moments as well.
And the beauty in that question from the coaching, psychological healing perspective is the advice is still applicable now to our inner child healing, right?
Oh God,
So even
totally.
you said it, which was so great, that even though that's the advice you would give to yourself when you were 15, you are still you're taking that advice now. So you're not, so 20 years from now you won't be looking back and we'd have this conversation again, I hope. Again, like Nima, so 20 years ago we had this conversation
Yeah,
and oh, Lindsay, I
you
wish I'd done what
responded.
I'd done then when I was
Yeah,
saying 20 years ago, so
yeah,
40 years later.
yeah.
But at least you're
Yeah,
living the advice, right?
I am totally living that advice because I think that's so important. And you look at any day, of course, there are ups and downs. This is life.
Mm-hmm.
But then we so neglect our ups, even if it's a little thing. So I think, yeah, I do that. I love doing my gratitude journal every day. I just write 3 things that I'm grateful for and why. That intervention has just changed perspective. So even on a really tough day, there's at least one. There are 3 things. Honestly, there are
Yes,
3 things. I've never come across even the worst day where there are not just 3 things that I can be grateful for, however small they are.
yes,
So yeah, I am living that, and that's something that I would highly recommend.
yes. You're so great. And so about your coaching and what you're doing for people that want to understand about trauma healing, post-traumatic healing, right?
Yeah,
What can you share with us on that?
yeah. So first, let me just give a brief introduction of what exactly is post-traumatic growth,
Please
right?
do. Yeah.
So post-traumatic growth occurs when people go through highly challenging situations,
Mm-hmm.
right? You go through something so traumatic in your life. There are people who go through that, build resilience,
Mm-hmm.
and can experience profound growth.
Yes.
That is post traumatic growth. The thing is, not many people realize it, and you are still stuck in the baseline. So you experience a trauma, and they think the best they can do is come back to baseline. So
Yes.
you experience it, this is your baseline, you
Yes.
experience a trauma, you go down,
Yes.
and you're languishing here. Then you have some intervention. You think the best they can do is come back here.
Okay.
Actually, you can go back here.
Okay.
You can go all the way up. My job really is to help somebody who's gone from here, who thinks they can only be here,
Yes.
go here. and achieve so much that they want, or set new goals, or work towards something they haven't done before, because there are so many dimensions that open up as a result of the trauma you've experienced.
Yes.
So they can see probably growth in better relationships. They can see spiritual existential growth.
Okay.
Many people would find more meaning in life, because before they experience the trauma, their life may have had a different meaning. Post trauma, you might have something very different. So that's where I come in. The post-traumatic growth coaching comes in to help people move from baseline to something incredible that they want to achieve.
And how do you let somebody? What does somebody have to come to you, or is there anything you do to bring that awareness? How does someone even know they in a trauma state and that they have the choice to come out of it?
So most of the time it is when somebody comes. So I mean, like, you always, when somebody comes to you as a client, you have a session with them, right? A taster session with them.
Yes.
And I do a fairly long taster session, an hour to an hour and a half, to explore with them what it is they're working. And if we do see trauma, so somebody would come to me and let's say they've gone through something terrible in their lives and they feel stuck at the point, so they can't change their career or they can't do this, then we say, okay, let's explore what that is. And so we work through that. So it comes organically, if I'm answering your question shortly, rather than, oh, I will go. So that's what happens. Let's say 50% of the time you come to me, we work. And then if it's not something that I could work on, or I feel that I have the space for, then I would say I'm not the right coach. But most of them come organically. A lot more have come now through just word of mouth and referencing, because they know this is what I do. I do a lot of blogging. I do a lot of writing. So people are getting more and more aware. A lot has changed since the pandemic itself.
Yes. So what's changed? There's been more awareness of it, or you've noticed that more people are suffering with it, or both?
More or both. So more awareness. More awareness because, as we see, there are articles and blogs that talk about mental health. People are not just saying, oh, I have some anxiety and I don't know now. So there have been, for example, job losses now. And as we see the economy shrinking, job loss. So people are not sitting there and saying that, oh, I'll just go for the next job. So the people who are coming, acknowledging the trauma that they're facing as a result of the job loss or a death in the family that they've had. And then now what? So when they lose a family member or they change their jobs, you're finding yourself in another dimension. So they might say, okay, now my meaning in life has totally changed after this loss. I don't want to go back to my old job. I want to look for something else based on this, and I want to grow. So a lot of it comes organically that way. And a lot of it comes because somebody's worked with me and they just refer somebody else
for some help.
For some help,
And how do you see this panning out? Is there enough of this kind of help, or do you feel it's a little bit, it's getting, I don't want to say worse because I'm always looking to the better outlook. Is it getting better, or are we still struggling with this?
Oh, I think we're still struggling, no? There's so much more needs to be done. That's what I think. I don't know what you think, but there's some. Okay, and the pandemic has brought some of these topics front and center. So there is a little bit more awareness. Also, even within companies, I see that they are putting a little bit more importance to mental health. But if we're sitting here and both of us are saying, wow, the whole world has changed and now everybody knows about their mental health, and they go, no way, we're nowhere close to that. I don't think I think there is that mental health, and so physical health is taken care of so much. I think mental health is still down. We've not come to a stage where both mental and physical health matters equally. So I don't think we're there yet. So no.
And what's your feeling on what this pandemic has done for trauma and mental health? raised the awareness, or has it just masked it even more? Because it's very stigmatized, like we said earlier, right? I mean, even you were saying growing up in India, it was very stigmatized.
Yeah.
It's still mostly like that.
Oh God, yes, yes,
And do you
yes.
think the pandemic has kind of shifted that mindset, or it's just masked it even more?
I don't know yet is the real
Okay.
answer because we are still in it. So just looking at my own, I think, let's say coaching practice, so I can speak from my experience.
Hmm.
Definitely, I'm working with more people. So I
Okay.
have more clients, I have more people who are coming in. I've worked with healthcare workers. I think there is some awareness, but the whole thing, like, is only going to hit because right now we're still facing it. We're all
Yes.
following it, but I think this is going to see a massive kind of, unfortunately, a rise in mental illness.
Mm.
We are going to see, and we are probably seeing a lot of anxiety, a lot of, depression. Unfortunately, people who already had mental illness, this has kind of made it
Make it
worse for
worse.
them.
Yeah, yeah.
I think we're going to see a lot more. Are we all prepared to take on that? Is a question that we need to ask. If we are here, we should be, doing our best. We have been called now at this
Hmm.
point
Hmm.
to come and do. Will I be doing it? Absolutely, yes. But this should be a collective game.
Yes, yes, yes.
Collective from our GPs, collective from education. There should be awareness within families. It's just not a low mood anymore, right? You
Hmm.
can't
Hmm.
say,
Hmm.
oh, it's just gonna get over it.
Yes, yes, yes.
Mental illness is not something to get over. You need to
Mm-mm.
go and I think, yeah, we still need a lot of change.
You just listening to you, you just start realizing the magnitude of the task, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And Nima, what would you say for people watching? What are triggers as an individual listening to this or looking outside? What would be personal triggers for me to be like, oh, okay, this is now a time for me to start trying to look for help? Are there triggers you see in your work?
Yeah, definitely. So some are even physiological,
Okay,
right? So
okay.
I would just start with that because it's simpler to kind of understand is,
Mm-hmm,
you know, uh, like not sleeping, not
mm-hmm,
sleeping,
mm-hmm.
lying awake, eating poorly, finding a weight gain or a weight loss. You're completely not yourself.
Yes.
Or some kind of a substance abuse. If you were drinking 2 glasses of wine, if it's changing to 4 glasses to 5 glasses,
Mm-hmm,
that's a trigger there. Okay, why is that happening?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So it's there. A lot of these things are there right in front of us in plain sight for us to look out for. So there is a substance abuse. You could be, smoking more, or drinking more right now.
Mm-hmm,
It's something that we can watch out for.
mm-hmm.
Or if you're not exercising and you're finding yourself things that you enjoyed doing before.
Yes.
Let's say you enjoyed dancing or you enjoyed running and you enjoyed, you know, going out, and suddenly you find yourself in a shell and you're like, oh, I don't want to do any of that anymore.
Mm-hmm,
There's a sign out there. Or then if you find that you are behaving in ways that you never behaved before and you can't get out of bed, you have no motivation whatsoever, I think it's always, always worth it to go get some help.
mm-hmm,
Just
mm-hmm.
to talk to somebody otherwise. Or in post-traumatic growth, there's a very, like, I love this concept. It's called expert companion.
Okay.
So it's not necessarily a professional.
Mm-hmm,
It could just be a close friend or a family member. I think talking really helps, and then from there you can see what happens. So, lot of like you asked, lot of the triggers or the shifts are right there in front of us.
okay. Okay. And it's just becoming aware of them, and hopefully stuff like this and the awareness campaign can bring that. Because
Absolutely.
I'm sure many people don't even realize that it's gone from 2 glasses a night of wine to 4,
Yeah,
and then it exponentiates. Right?
absolutely. So there is a lot of research that shows the substance abuse now is much higher. there's some data that came out, and also Mind, the charity, has been doing some incredible research during this during the lockdown,
Mm-hmm.
and over 60%, Lindsay, over 60% of adults feel that their mental health has been affected.
It's a lot, isn't it?
It's a lot. More so, younger people,
Wow.
adolescents, younger people.
Oh, wow.
We are in such unprecedented times, so we have to acknowledge that. And there have been, and there have been cases of domestic violence. You hear
Mm-hmm.
about so much, my goodness, that I still think, people should talk about it. You're right. There should be awareness campaigns. We must do what we can. GP should be more aware. We should have more coaches here. We must all come out collectively as a community to bring a shift.
Yes. And Nima, what would you say, your words of encouragement and awareness to anybody who is afraid? That statistic, about 60% of adults are struggling. That's the people that admit to it. I can imagine the number would increase for those who are in fear of acceptance, denial almost, right?
Yeah.
What from your heart and your experience and what your purpose, what would you say to somebody who's sitting here in pain and in denial?
Seek help. Then that's my thing. Seek help, because we always think it's cowardly to go and ask for help, or I'm
Mm-hmm.
not being brave by not asking. In fact, it's the opposite. You're being brave and strong if you go ask for help. And sometimes I say this, that if we have a physical condition, we're not just going to sit with it and hope that it all goes away. We know
Absolutely.
that, okay, we can go to a GP, we can get an appointment,
Mm-hmm.
and okay, if you have, had an injury, you go get the treatment for it, and it's gone. At the end of it, you feel better than when you started.
Absolutely.
The logic is exactly the same. Go to your GP, share your symptoms, and take it forward from there, or to a mental health expert.
Mm-hmm.
Or and a lot of people don't. If they have insurance, private insurance, you can use it. There are so many options available out there, but the first thing is seek help. Seek help.
I love listening to you. What would you say to your future self? Let's do 20 years, because we're 20 years back. Well, 20 years back, that made you 15, right?
Yeah, 10.
Yes.
What? How dare you? What would I say to my future self? Oh my God, I would say to my future self, go on this path. I mean, to my future self, what would I say to her? I don't know. I don't know. I need a second to think. What would I say to my future self? Oh, I know. Go get the PhD. Go get the PhD. I want to get a PhD in the field that I'm interested in, and I would tell my future self, go get it, because that is going to make a massive difference. As part of the vision and all of that is to have a program we can roll out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I would tell my future self, if I followed the path, I can have that vision come true, changing the face of mental health, getting the less and less and less and less of stigma that we are not, sitting here, Lindsay, 20 years later, talking
Exactly,
about the
exactly,
same thing.
exactly.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
Nima,
I
what have you
still have
done?
20 years.
It's been 20
I've done
years.
nothing. I've done nothing. Drinking more tea. But yeah, that's it. Yeah.
You're on that journey though, because you're doing your master's, right?
I'm doing my master's, and my dissertation will be next year, and I am contemplating to go into doing a PhD in one of the areas that I'm in post-traumatic growth that I want to work on, and go down that path that tomorrow that we can create a program that can be implemented, because even now it's not easy, right? It's not so easy. We
No,
have to
not
go
at all.
through all these things, and I want to have something that's a little bit more accessible. I want to although trauma is really hard and I don't wish it on anybody, but it is a reality of life, no?
It's there. It's there.
So how can we then make some of those things more accessible? So I think that's what I would say. If I follow down the path, like you're saying, then that's made possible. So that's what I would tell my future self. Keep going.
I feel you're already doing that. So you're on that journey.
Yes, definitely I'm on that journey. I also want to tell my future self to have more fun.
That's very nice.
I'd love to.
We forget that, right?
Oh God, we do.
It's so
We
overlooked.
do.
It's life is too serious, and you on the hamster wheel go faster, and then
Yeah, so I want to cut everything else back because you're right. I'm going down the path. I want to tell her, have fun, have fun, have fun. Yes.
because it can be fun heading towards the PhD at the same time, right?
I hope so. You may not see me for many years, but I want.
What do you mean?
No, what I'm saying is obviously tough academic programs can take a lot out of you as you do your thesis and so on. But I want to tell myself, my future self, have fun doing that and enjoy it and, you know, go out with friends and do a lot of things. And sometimes you're right, we just forget to have fun.
We do. We're so worried about that goal, the carrot, right? The donkey and the carrot.
Yeah.
And next thing we know, years pass by, and well,
Yeah.
I'll be around to remind you about the carrot. You know, stop for a second.
Let's go have fun.
Exactly.
Let's go have fun. Oh, absolutely. You need friends and people to pull you out and say, come, let's go do it. Yeah.
Stop for a minute. Nima, it's so great. I mean, we could sit here for hours, and I'm loving it, loving it.
You are going on my gratitude journal today. I was grateful for being here on
Thank
this
you.
videocast with Lindsay and sharing everything. I loved it. Thank you for having me. It's so wonderful of you to call me.
Is there one word you'd like to share to the world from you about your purpose, about you, anything about awareness?
Again, just authenticity. Just 2 words, be authentic, be yourself. That's it.
I wish I could give you a hug. I'm going to do it virtually because you're so great. so great.
Oh, thank you.
I know you're going to do great things. You've already done great things, and with yourself mostly. You know, I already admired you from all those years ago, and then seeing you now, I feel a much bigger energy coming from you. So I can only imagine how much more exponential it's going to be as time goes on.
Yeah, you better call me for the next one then, Lindsay.
This is no, yes, yeah.
Call me for the next interview.
Are you starting to like it for someone who was a bit intimidated to get you? Yeah. Great, great. That's growth. So thank you so much, Nima. I will put all your contact details before and after, so people can get in touch. I'm sure there'll be some resonance. I always believe from my own experience, there's always resonance somewhere. We might not even get contacted or see the people, but I know this kind of stuff will touch somewhere. And this is why we do what we do, right?
Absolutely. This is why we do. So if it touches somebody and they make one small change
to heal, to grow, that's it.
And collectively we do this. Can you imagine the transformation?
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
Absolutely. I thank you for your authenticity and your vulnerability and your beauty and your strength and you. So
thank you for having me, and thank you for being so amazing that you're able to bring that out here in this conversation. So thank you and so much.
Thank you so much.